Hello everyone, welcome to another session. Please confirm that you can hear me.
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you from my end.
Okay, that's good. All right. So first I'm going to attend to some of the issues you guys are having with pandas profiling and geocode before we go to geopandas rather, before we go to our session for today. So let me just quickly share my screen. All right, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. So this is what's happening. I think you guys are trying to install this, and at the point of using this, you're running into an error with this. So this is depreciated. So what you should use is Y data. You can equally install this as well. The installation, even though if you use pandas profiling, it will still work. So run this. The rest of the code we should have. So then the profile report is saved to HTML file. So this is pretty straightforward. And then if you view the let me just run this and then we'll take a look at the output that is being given from this. So this is it. Provides us with some statistics on our data set. You can take a look at it, examine it, and if you have any questions, you can drop it in the chat, drop it on the Slack channel. We'll attend to it. Also take a look at the documentation to see how you can play around with this. All right, let me move quickly to the other issue. So to use Folium for generating your maps. So you're going to have to specify a user agent. So that's what I've done here. So nominating, right, requires us to use a user agent. So without that, the reason we can't specify one user agent for everybody is that it's going to be having multiple requests from that identified by that user agent. So everyone has to just specify the string they want to use as their user agent, okay? So it can be any random string that somewhat looks unique, right? So when you put that in, so just insert the user agent. This is what it was before, right? So if you insert your user agent, you should have the code working fine. So I hope that fixes the issue for everyone else, everyone that was experiencing an issue. Is Emmanuel on this call? Okay. Okay. All right, then let's look at what we have for today. So we're going to be doing some visualization with Microsoft's Power BI. And let's just have a quick look at what Power BI is all about. So it's a business intelligence and data visualization platform from Microsoft. Allows us to connect to a variety of data sources. So our data sources, as you're going to see, can be from various platforms, can be files, can be databases, can be warehouses, data lakes, whatever data source you're interested in connecting to. So Power BI has enabled us to be able to connect to that, and then allows us to explore our data set, to do some transformations as well, and then create interactive reports and dashboards. And all of this is like through a drag and drop functionality. So you don't really need to write a lot of code. Although if you want to do some complex calculations, you need to that, right, to perform and write your queries. But you don't need to do initial starting out, right? You can do a lot by just dragging and dropping. So that's the beauty of Power BI. Then some of the benefits of Power BI, I've mentioned that already. It's the ease of use, right? And then the large data sources that it allows you, large subset of data sources it allows you to connect to, and then collaboration features. So allows you to share your reports and dashboards, and then visualization strength. So in the last class, we explored some interactive features with Altair, and we had to do a lot of code writing to be able to arrive at what we did. But with Power BI, is a lot easier. It's basically like a default setting with it, right? So that's one good thing with Power BI. And then limitations of with Power BI, data storage limitations. So the free version, which is what we use, Power BI Desktop, has a 2 GB data storage limit, and then requires you to pay if you want to work with larger data sets. Limited offline functionality, vendor locking, learning curve can be a bit difficult when you have to navigate, or when you have to like perform some complex calculations on your data set. So learning that might come as if you have not already, it's easier for people who are coming from Excel, right, to Power BI. Otherwise, it might prove a bit of difficulty for you to get familiar with all of that. Then these are some of the components of Power BI. And then connecting to data sources. But for today, what we're going to really be focusing on, so we're not going to be installing Power BI. I believe everyone has installed it. Is there anybody that has not installed Power BI in this call? Okay, so I'll take the silence for a no, right? Everyone has installed it. So we'll just be connecting to the data source and performing some data cleaning and transformations, as well as exploring some visualizations and interactivity. All right. So I have my Power BI desktop open here, and we're going to take a look at some of the features. This is what allows us to connect to several data sources, right? So we can connect to an Excel workbook, Power BI semantic models, data flows, text, and CSV file. It can even allows you to import from a web page, which is like web scraping, right? And then there are some other data sources as well. So you see some mention of some databases, Google BigQuery, which is a data warehouse, Snowflake data warehouse, as well as Azure SQL database, even Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. So it has a myriad of data sources that allows you to connect to. So that's one good thing about it. So for example, we'll just get right into it for our session today. Let's just import our data set. So we're going to be importing from Excel, and we're still going to be working with our Adidas US sales. So we have our data, our worksheet here, and then the tables that we want to work with. If we had more tables, they would be listed here, right? But currently, we have just one table in our spreadsheet. So that's what's here. And we'll go ahead and you can either load the data and start creating some visualizations, or you can automatically like go ahead and transform your data in Power Query Editor, right? So the best approach is often to transform your data, right? Get rid of columns that you don't want and transform or add columns that you need. So like as we can see already, this data set is not looking great. So we have some transformation to do. So let's go ahead and transform the data. All right, so for this, first thing that we observe is the presence of all of this null within the rows, the first 4 rows here. Then we see this as well. We also see that the column was not, the column header was not picked. It should be retailer, ID, invoice date, region state, all of that. But it wasn't picked, right? So we need to go in and see how we can fix that. It's important that when you first load your data, you inspect it, take a look at that. But then from my inspection already, we can see that something is wrong with it. So we'll just come here and see what we can do. We can remove the top rows. So how many access to specify the number of rows that we want. So we can tell that our actual data starts from row 5. So we want to remove the first 4 rows. So we go ahead and do that. And then now something interesting to look out for is that whatever step you do, whatever transformation you do to your data, it's recorded here. So if you transform your data, right, and then you realize that, oh, you should have done something else, you can always go ahead. All that transformation you did is you didn't intend to do it, and always revert it, right? So that's one advantage of Power BI. So we reverted this, so we're going to go ahead and redo it because it's actually something we want to do. So let's remove top rows. Now, it's still not in the shape that we want it to be in. We want to make this the header. So let's go here and use first row as headers. So now we have our first row as headers. Okay, so let's take a look at our data set. If you notice, we have all of this with these descriptions beside it, right? ABC 1, 2, 3. What does it really mean? If you come here, you see that they are all data types, right? So you have this representing decimal number, this representing fixed decimal number, whole number, and all of that. So we can go ahead and inspect our data set and just be certain that the data type is actually what we want it to be, right? So we have retailer ID, we have invoice date, which is a date data type. So this is a text data type, which is in the right format. Okay. We have our states, we have our city, our product, price per unit. We have units sold, we have total sales, we have operating profit, operating margin, we have our sales method, which are all text formats, right? But let's see. We don't want operating margin to be a decimal number, right? We want it to are usually percentages. So what we are going to do is we're going to go ahead and work on this data type. So all we need to do is just click on percentage, and it's going to ask us, okay, would you like to replace the existing conversion or preserve the existing conversion? You can go ahead and just replace. We want to replace this. So this is now what we have. That we can do, we can add columns, we can also remove columns. So we're going to go ahead and add some columns. For our case, we have a column that says units sold, we have total sales, then we have price per unit. So what I want us to do is let's look at total sales and let's try to confirm is it the same? Like, is this divided by this, is it the same as this? So basic mathematics now, right? Total sales divided by units sold should give us the price per unit. So we're going to try and say, okay, we want to add a column just to confirm if they're the same, right? So we're going to go ahead and do some add column, and we want to add a custom column. And then the column name, we can call it unit price calculated, right? So now what we want to do is we want to do a division. So now we want to go ahead and the value that we want to divide is total sales, right? So Power BI supports auto completion. So that's useful if you don't really know the syntax and you just need like a way of, okay, what parameters do I need to include here? What is this function doing and all of that? So, okay, so the next thing we're looking at, we said units sold, right? Yeah, so units sold. And it lets us know no syntax errors have been detected. So we're good to go. So let's okay this. And then we have unit price calculated. Interestingly, if we look at this, these are in hundreds, right? And if we look at this, these are in 50s, these are in tens, right? So there's clearly something wrong somewhere. So what we'll do for this class is that we're going to drop what we had initially, okay? So we'll just drop this price per unit and keep the new one that we have calculated. So I mean, it's a sales for the year. So we want to, let's assume that unit price calculated, not unit price calculated as opposed to units sold. So, but yeah, either ways, let's delete that. It's a good opportunity to show us how to delete columns. A pretty straightforward thing to do. So we'll come here to our previous price per unit, right click, and then remove it. So all our steps are currently being added, right? Know that one thing you need to know is that this is not doing this does not have any effect on our initial data set. So we can always go back to our data set and have a look at it and see that it has not been changed, right? So this is just like all happening in the Power Query editor, right? So we've deleted that. Let's also take a look at the rest of our columns. Do we have other things? I think retailer ID is not going to be very useful to us. So I think that's something we can also delete. So we'll remove that. And then let's see, region, state, city. City, okay, product unit sold, total sales, operating. So I think everything else looks good. I think so. Let's rename this. Let's change this from calculated to just unit price. Okay, so that looks good, I think. So, but that's my thinking, right? So we always inspect our various columns and confirm that everything is actually in order. And what we'll do, we can look at the column quality that lets us know, okay, so are these columns valid? Are the various cells within our column, are they valid? Do we have errors? Do we have empty null values, right, initially? So thing that could have happened, right, is that we could have had null values if we had done a column quality check at the start of this session, right, when we still had those rows with null values, we would have seen some empty values. Okay, so one thing that we're going to do next, we can also take a look at the column profile. So yeah, select the column you want to take a look at. This, see the count, you see the error, see the distinct versus unique, then see region, see state, see city. All right, I want to do one more thing before we close this up and on. Okay, yes, I want to demonstrate like what happens when we have like errors. So let me quickly unselect this, and then I'm just going to try to convert. Let's see. Okay. Um, I want to do some replacements. In the absence of that, I'm just going to right click and replace values. So I want to replace, let's say the east, the E here, right? Like everything here literally has an E. So, okay, not everything does. This allows us to have a quick view of what is in our data. If it says list may not be successful, you have a view of everything. Okay, so I know that this is all. So I want to replace, let's say the E here with, let's do that for a number. Okay. So first, let's convert this to text. All right. Know that your digits can also be treated as strings in whatever platform you're working with, whether Python, whether Power BI. So next thing we're going to do is let's do replacement. Replacement works on text. So let's do that. Let's replace values. Let's say we want to replace one with okay. So this is what we have. Now let's go back and try to, sorry, let's go back and try to convert this. And then we see that some values are converted, some others are not. We do a column quality check and we see the percentage of values that have errors. And so this is what we have. Okay, so remember I said we can take a view of what we have done so far. So let's look at this. Let's see what we did last. We changed type to renamed columns, unit sold. Okay, replace value, then change type. So this just means that this is the second change of type that we are doing so far. So we changed unit sold to text, we did replacement of values, and then we changed type again. So let's just go back, and it's safe to say that safe to say that from here, I can delete until the end. So instead of just deleting one by one, I can do this. Okay. All right, so we're good. So I think we're good. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to apply all the steps that we've done so far and close this. Close and apply. This is important because remember we've not loaded this yet. So we decided, oh, let's transform our data first. Now we've transformed, we're applying what we've done so far. We're loading it here. So now, next thing we're going to do, we can go straight into doing our visuals, right? So we have our table view here, we have our report view here, we have model view, we have dark square view. So we have just one table here, but typically we can have more than one table. Sometimes we can load data from various data sources, right? So we have, and usually if you're loading data from a database, that's how it will be, right? You're going to be having several tables within your database. And so you're just going to be pulling data, various various data sets, right, from those tables. You're going to be pulling all the data sets from those tables. And so there will be a lot of mapping. There will be one-to-many mapping, one-to-one, depending on like the relationship in your database, right? So one thing that Power BI does is that it can automatically detect the presence of a field here in another. Let's say we have a model and we have a field here, so it will detect again the presence of that same field, right, in another table. So that's one thing that Power BI can automatically do. So if you have in your database all those relationships, right, between the various tables, and of course they have, let's say they have the as long as they have the same name, Power BI will be able to detect, but sometimes you might need to explicitly state it. So, however, we're not doing that in this case, but there are resources online, you can check that out around that. And so for our table view, we can take a look at this and just try to have a look at our data set. We can always come back here if we want to reorient ourselves of if we want to reorient ourselves of our data set, right? So we'll go back here and we're going to take a look at the visualizations that we can do. So for starters, we have our data here. So these are the list of visualizations that we can work with. So let's start with like some of the very basic visualizations that we can do. It's a sales data set. So typically you want to see the total sales and it covers 2 years, right? So let's look at sales over several dimensions, right? So like sales over years, sales over products, sales over like total sales across products, total sales across regions, across retailers. you can also decide to look at the units that have been sold. So let's start out with total sales for the 2 years, the trend of total sales. We want to compare 2020 and 2021. What was the total sales? So, excuse me, we're going to use a line chart for that. Cool thing about Power BI is we click on total sales, and what happens? It automatically detects that it should be in the y-axis, and then we go ahead. Now we have invoice dates there, but this is a drop down, right? So there's date hierarchy, so letting us know that okay, then our dates, right? There's a hierarchy to the quarter. You can also create hierarchies for like various things within our process. Typically have like parent-child relationships, right? So like maybe country and states, things like that. So let's go ahead and work with this. I'll just select the entire thing and let's see what we have. This is a lot. This is not really giving us what we want to know. We can do better, can do much better than this. So we are going to take the day. I would prefer to look at it per month. So we'll take away the day, take away the quarter. So this covers January down to December at this point, right? 2021. See our tooltip already providing us with some information. So the sum of sales and all of that. So I don't want it to be like this. I would rather we do a comparison, 2 lines, 2020 and 2021. So how would we do that? So that's to say that this will no longer be January 2020 or April 2020, July. So just the various months, January, February, and then 2 lines represent the various years. So first thing we can do is get rid of here. Then this is what we have right now, but then this is like a sum of both years. We want to make a distinction, and so we make that distinction with the legend, right? So we will put our year here. This is what we have. Okay, so now the next thing that we can do, we can work on this. We can format this the way that we want to. So there are several things here that we can format: the x-axis, the y-axis. We can change the color. We can change the title, right, of our x-axis. So okay, so we can change the color if we want. All of those are rather trivial stuff, but yeah, that's if we want. But yeah, another thing that we can do, I think it was the x-axis we were working on, is that we can reset our changes to default. So that's something that we can do. So here are just a list of things that you can play around with. So, and see, so we can add markers. Yeah, I think the key thing to look at is like how much easier this is than like working with Python. If your primary responsibility in your job role is data visualization, so you want to get really familiar with tools like this Power BI, right? Because they make your job a lot easier. Okay, that's not to say that working with Python, Seaborn, Alter, Matplotlib doesn't have its place. It does. I mean, the more flexibility a tool allows you, the more customizations you can do. Okay, this is it. These are some of the changes that we can add. Let's take a look at data labels. Okay, I think it makes it look rather tardy, so I would rather turn it off and just have tooltip describe the data points when I hover over it. So that works. Okay. So we have basic properties here that you can work on, or we can just, let's go straight to working on the title. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to say sum of total titles by and here. So maybe I'll just take away the sum of and just say total cells, right? So that works. Let's say I don't like where it is currently, so I can do that, and that works. I'll do a couple of other things if you want. Next thing we're going to look at, let's just keep moving. Let's see some other visualizations that we can include before, and let's see some interactivity that we can also include before. So we've looked at the trend per year. So the next thing that we want to look at is, let's see. Let's look at, okay. Let's look at sales per product, right? Let's look at sales per product. And I think the thing to use for sales per product would be a bar chart, right? Let's use a bar chart for sales per product. So let's pick this and let's specify that is total sales we want again, and then product. So what happens is this is already like pretty much plotted for us. Okay, so we see can perform the same customizations. We can go ahead and include the changes that we want. I would prefer to have the grid lines off, so I would turn the grid lines off, right? Let's see what we can do to the bars. We could make color a bit lighter, looks a little too light. So those are just some things that you can do. Some people prefer to work on all their charts and then leave formatting till the end. So that works too. And that's what we'll do going forward. So now that we know some basic formatting that we want to do, we can always leave it till the end. So let's just drop in some more charts, and then I would quickly demonstrate interactivity and how we can like filter for certain values, right? You can filter the rest of this chart. One thing I want to point out is that okay, so when we select a particular product, it filters, we see the total sales, right? So we no longer, if we do this, we see the total sales for the entire data set. But when we do this now, down to just men's street footwear. Okay, so that's the connectivity between the charts that we have access to, right? So we can do this for this and see how this changes per time. We looked at products. Let's look at sales method, right? Let's take a look at the sales method. And so for that, let's just use a donut chart, right? So so oh, okay. Okay. This is just a whole sum of everything, but we want it doesn't make much sense, right? We want to know the proportions, the various proportions of um our sales channels, right? So let's see what we can do. We need to specify the legend, right? So pull this and drop it here. And now we have our sales method. Okay. So this is because we are still currently selecting this. Remember I talked about the interactivity between all of them. So if I now have change. So another chart that we can work on is we can look at our total sales per region. So let's use a field map. Yeah, that just happened because we did not deselect this. So you need to be careful whenever you're working in this. You need to make sure that you have selected the charts. You're no longer selecting it so that you can go ahead and work with another chart. All right, so we're going to want to have a view of the total sales per region. Okay, so we'll just total sales per region, right? We have our legends, but we do not have highlighted because we need to specify the location, right? Okay, please confirm that you can still hear me and see my screen. Oh, sorry. Hello. Please, can you confirm? Can anybody hear me? Doesn't feel like
Yes, I can.
okay, okay, thank you. Um thought my network was a bit unstable. Okay, so we'll specify the states and then the legend is the regions, right? So let's take a look at this. We can expand this. I'll just expand this basically. So we can hover over this and it gives us the state, gives us the region and the sum of total sales that we are working with, right? So that's one thing that we can work on. Okay, another type of visualization that I'd like to talk about is the card, right? The card is useful when we just want to like a number. Okay, like so there's a prominent, I mean, you're presenting this, let's drop a scenario, right? You're presenting this to some managers, right, at the end, annual performance of Amazon products at the end of the year. And the very first thing you want them to see that was made over the year, right? So that's like one of the very first things that you want them to see. So that's where the card comes in. It's useful for displaying like a number, right? So let's do that. We're going to display the total sales, right? So this is not if you've been following, you know that this is not a very, how would I put it? This is not really the kind of, this is not like a proper representation of the data that we want to be showing them. We want to be showing them total sales. I want to be showing them total sales for the year 2021 and not just total sales from our set. That's what this is doing. It's showing us total sales from our data set. So what can we do? We can go ahead and I'll demonstrate how we can use the filter here. Okay. So we can go ahead and filter this and add a okay, yeah, sorry. We're going to be doing this. Add data filters here. And then what we want to do is go ahead and specify that we want to filter this by okay. We want to filter this by the year. Okay. Um, is it an advanced filtering we want to do? Is it a basic filtering? Advanced filtering is where you're going to use some formulas to specify what exactly you want to do. Or you can use the basic filtering, right? And so you just specify if you want everything to be selected or you just want 1 year to be selected. Okay. So the disadvantage of this, right, is that remember the whole interactivity that is going on. If we come here 2020, 2021, come down to 2020, we have blank. Come down because there's all this interactivity going on here. And so we have just when you filter, it just completely drops whatever data set does not have what you're filtering by. Okay. So it's not connected to the rest of our charts. So that's something that we can avoid in two ways, right? We can either include some slices, right? Or we can go ahead and separate this so that it's not connected with the rest of the charts. Okay. So let's see. Let's format. We want to edit interactions. All right. So if we do this now, you can see that while the rest of the charts are being filtered, our sum of total sales remains the same, right? So basically, that's what's happening. So I'm going to introduce slices, right? Okay. Okay. So just a Control Z can revert um, you removing a chat here. So in case you run into that issue, right? So let's do that and drop this. Now let's select a column from our data sets that we want to work with. Okay. Let's see. Let's use year, right? Or what have we not worked with so far? Let's see. We've not done anything on retailer. So what happens here? So when we select this, we have this is interesting. So like there was no sales for this period of time. Okay, for Foot Locker. So we're filtering this by the retailer. So everything here gets filtered by the retailer. Okay. So we see spots that another interesting visualization. So this is something that whoever you're presenting to your audience to ask some questions. So it goes beyond you just presenting these visualizations. Yeah, okay. So why is this behaving the way it is behaving? What happened? Was there a lockdown? Was there what went on? Right? We have why do we have no values for this period? Okay. So we can also include it for year, right? Or we can also format this. Let me just include it for year, then I'll show you how we can format this. This is okay. So let me include another slicer. Okay, so I'm going to reduce this a bit, move it so we have a bit more space, and then reduce this as well. I'm not formatting now. Let's go ahead and okay. So we see another like style to it, right? But what if we want to change the style, right? So let's see what we can do. Let's see what we can do. We can come to formatting our visuals and then take a look at our slicer settings. Okay. And let's see between vertical list. Let's just go around, play around with it and see what we have. We have tile, drop down. Okay. So I think drop down is pretty much okay. So we can decide, okay, I want to work with 2020, want to work with 2021. So that's something that we can do. All right. Let's keep this as 2021. So with this, the next thing to do, right, would be to try and basically arrange this, sort this out, like get this to look like a proper dashboard. And of course, you shouldn't have a dashboard without a title. And I'll just quickly show you how to get the title for this. So you can use the text box, right? And then go ahead and call this Amazon sales analysis, right? Bold, change the font size. Whatever you want. Change the font size. Reduce this. Those are basic things that you can do. Make it at the center, and there are a couple of other styling things that you can do. One thing to when you're starting out, one thing that you can do if you're because as it is, this is not what you want to present to excuse me, please. This is not what you want to present to anybody, right? This is not telling any story. This is a collection of charts. Okay. So one thing you want to do, you have some themes that you can work with, or if you are just starting out, you can always draw inspiration from what other people have worked on, right? You can take a look at the theme gallery, right, and try to adjust your charts and try to format your chart and style it in a way that works. Okay, so let's go back to what we were working with. So I'm not selecting any chart currently. So I have canvas background currently. Okay. Wallpaper. Okay. So filter. Yeah, I'll just show you because I think personally, I find that people sometimes find it difficult to do this. So I'll just point this out. I'll select a chart as a continuation. I'll share this. I know I say I'll share this, but I'm going to drop this in Slack. Once this is done, I'm going to, in this current format, alongside the data set. And I would really like for you guys to keep working on it, tweak it till before you go on. So let's say we want to change this to have rounded corners, right? Because rounded corners just always look okay. So my time is up. I'm sorry. Okay. Um, I want to quickly show you that. So we can just quickly select, make the border on, and then just go ahead and select this, right? So make it, expand it as much as you want, and there you have that. So this just always adds a nice look to your dashboard. So I'll once I get off this call, I'll be dropping this alongside the link to the data set. So please, I'll be looking forward to questions and to like links to what you've done. So thank you very much, everybody.